Hi guys, I'm Max Weinbach with XDA TV, and today, honestly, we gotta talk about those Galaxy S20 leaks because, there have been a lot of them, and they're kind of confusing to follow, so I just wanted to make a video here and, talk to you guys about all of those leaks and rumors and everything that should be happening at Samsung's February 11th event out in San Francisco. So, let's get started. So the first thing I want to mention is the products that are going to be launched. There are going to be a total of 6 products launched or announced at that event. The Galaxy Z Flip, the Galaxy S20, S20 5G, S20 Plus, S20 Plus 5G, and Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G. So the S20s will have a 5G and an LTE version available, depending on your region, for both the S20 and S20 Plus, while the S20 Ultra will only be available on 5G. And then the Galaxy Z Flip, which is the Samsung clamshell design, which leaked, a bunch of pictures of it leaked, that will only be available in LTE. That one will be available worldwide along with the others, but the 5G and LTE versions will vary depending on your region, so we can't tell you what region will get what device or what processor, because for the Galaxy S20s, you'll have an option between 2 different processors depending on your region. You'll either have the Snapdragon 865, which we will get in the US, or the Exynos 990, which will be available in, I'm going to assume, the general countries, but Samsung, there were some rumors of Samsung switching that up, so it could be other countries this year. Along with that, we will be getting a bare minimum of 12 gigabytes of RAM across all 3, I'm going to say 3 because the 5G and LTE versions match in specs. So across all 3 S20s, there will be 12 gigabytes of RAM minimum, and then the S20 Ultra is rumored to get a grand total of 16 gigabytes of RAM at a 512 gigabyte storage capacity at the maxed out version of it. That is a rumor, and a lot of these things could change, especially storage sizes and RAM capacity, right before launch, because they're still trying to figure out what makes the most monetary sense to produce and sell. So a lot of that could change by launch, but you should expect a minimum of 12 gigabytes of RAM across all 3 models. As for display sizes, the smallest S20 will have a 6.2-inch screen, the S20 Plus will be 6.7, and the S20 Ultra will be 6.9. All of these are at a 20:9 aspect ratio with a 3200 by 1440p display. Now this display, it does support 120 Hz. It is a 120 Hz display, but the software on the phone will limit it to full HD when you enable 120 Hz. There were some rumors about a developer option allowing you to max it out, but I did ask my source to check, and there was no developer option whatsoever. So unfortunately, you will be limited to full HD 120 Hz. It's a shame, but I think it's fine. A lot of these companies do know what's best, and I think Samsung does, especially for their own product. There were a lot of battery life concerns, which is kind of why they were going for that. But with the 4,000 milliamp hour battery on the S20, 4,500 on the S20 Plus, and 5,000 on the S20 Ultra, I don't think battery is going to be an issue. You'll also be able to charge them pretty quick. So there have been 2 rumors for this. One say the S20 and S20 Plus will support 25 watt charging instead of 45 watts. So basically 25 watt maximum. The S20 Ultra will be 45 watt maximum. And the other rumor says all 3 will have 45 watts. We aren't sure, it's one of those 2, but all 3 will come with 25 watt chargers in the box, and the S20 Ultra will actually take 75 minutes to charge from 0 to 100%, that 5,000 milliamp hour battery at 45 watts. So it is a pretty fast charger. When we're talking about the design in the back, it is going to come in a couple different colors. It's going to be gray, black, white, pink, and blue. Those renders actually leaked from my friend Ishan a couple days ago. Actually, it would have been yesterday, but when you guys see it, it would have been a couple days ago. So I'll throw those up on the screen. You guys can see what it looks like. The S20 will have, for the cameras, that's basically the only difference between any phone at this point, that camera setup. On the S20, it's going to be a 12 megapixel main sensor, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 64 megapixel telephoto. It's a pretty crazy setup. On the S20 Plus, it's going to match the S20, so 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 64 megapixel telephoto, but the S20 Plus is going to have a time of flight sensor. So you get that nice 3D scanning. You can use it for 3D models or depth mapping in some apps, and it'll help out with portrait mode, edge detection, because it's a 3D scanner. And on the S20 Ultra, that camera setup is going to be 108 megapixel main sensor, which is just crazy, a 48 megapixel optical zoom with the periscope in there. It'll have a maximum hybrid zoom of 30, go to a maximum digital zoom of 100 times. So my source claimed 30 times lossless, 100 times. It won't look great, but it'll be there. And that'll be a 48 megapixel hybrid. That'll be the periscope, 48 megapixels, and then the same 12 megapixel wide from the others. And that will have a time of flight sensor as well. All of those are very cool. The software features on the camera, we will be getting an improved normal photography mode with a feature similar to Deep Fusion. We will be getting a brand new night mode, which is greatly improved, trust me on that one. And we're getting a couple new actual photography modes. So one that I had found a while ago was called Director's View, and it seems like that was removed in the current software builds on the device, but it's likely that might come back after launch. Otherwise, we will be getting a new Pro Video mode. So if you have a Samsung phone right now, and you go to your camera mode, Pro Camera mode, it's basically that, but video. We will also be getting a mode called Single Take Photo, where you will be able to just move your phone around a scene, and it will take pictures out of all 3 lenses and videos and recommend you good ones. I would consider this something very similar to Google's Photo Booth mode. It's a very, very cool sounding, feature, and I'm really excited to go check that out. And that's basically that. On the front cameras though, on the S20 and S20 Plus, we are getting 10 megapixel cameras, the actual same sensor as the Note 10 and S10, but these will now support 4K 60 FPS. And the S20 Ultra is getting a 40 megapixel front-facing camera, which will support 4K 60 FPS as well. And that's, pretty nice. Something I have yet to mention to you guys is that all 3 phones will support 4K 60 FPS out of all 4 lenses, I guess, and 8K 30 FPS out of that 64 megapixel lens on both the S20 and S20 Plus, and out of the 108 megapixel lens on the S20 Ultra. So expect 8K 24 FPS video. Now that 24 FPS number could switch between 24 FPS and 30, depending on what Samsung feels like doing closer to launch. We're still like about a month out, so we'll have to wait and see. And now I know these phones seem really great, but what about the price? So the S20, the LTE, should be about $900. S20 5G should be about $1,000. S20 Plus LTE should be about $1,000. S20 Plus 5G should be about $1,100. And then the S20 Ultra should be $1,350. And this is all for base model as well, which would be 12 gigs of RAM and likely 128 gigs of storage. And then the S20 Ultra should max out at pretty close to $1,600 with half a terabyte of storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is just crazy. And those are really high numbers. And you might have noticed I've totally ignored the Galaxy Z Flip I mentioned earlier. Well, that's because I'm getting onto that one now. So the Galaxy Z Flip will have a 6.7-inch 20 by 9 aspect ratio dynamic AMOLED display. It will fold, of course, it's the Z Flip, it's a foldable phone. And it will have, it'll be ultra-thin glass. It'll be Samsung's ultra-thin glass right on top of it. So unlike the Galaxy Fold, which uses a plastic polymer for the display, this will be glass. I've heard 2 things. One source says it'll just be called Samsung Ultra Thin Glass. Another source I have claims it will be ultra thin glass with a layer of plastic on top. So basically that polymer with glass underneath. That'll help it retain some stability. It'll make it feel a little bit snappier. It'll feel a little bit better. and you won't have to worry about scratches, since scratches will just be on that polymer layer instead of the actual display, which is definitely a huge improvement over the Galaxy Fold, which I've been using every day and absolutely love. The cameras on that, we have a 10 megapixel front camera when you unfold the device, and on the back we are getting two 12 megapixel sensors. One is an ultra wide, one is a main sensor. These are likely the same as the Galaxy S20 and S20 Plus. It will run the Snapdragon 855 Plus. It'll have a 3300 milliamp hour battery and have 15 watt fast charging. This will be the Snapdragon 855 Plus around the world, so no matter what region, if you want that phone, you will be able to get it with a Snapdragon chip. On the side, you will have a capacitive fingerprint scanner, and the phone is basically a Galaxy S10e but folds in half. Actually, something else to mention is on the front, there's like a little 1-inch display. It's really tiny next to the camera, and you'll be able to use that as a camera viewfinder if you want to use the 12 megapixel sensors as a selfie camera, which would result in much better quality. And you'll also be able to check time, date, and charge speed on that, which is pretty useful, I guess. It's just so you don't have to unflip it. And now it is a flip phone, so it does have, a hinge on there. And that hinge is special. So this hinge will be able to fold and pretty much lock in whatever position you want. So let's consider this. This is the top, this is the bottom. It will lock in at 90 degrees, so you'll be able to put your phone down on a table, and it will work like a tripod. You'll actually be able to see different camera features, like let's say the viewfinder. It'll move from this part, so let's say your phone was flat, it would fill up the entire screen. But when you go like this, the camera would crop up from this part over to this, and you will only see it on the part that, isn't flat. And you're actually able to bend the phone, and it will lock into positions like this. So no matter how you move it, it'll still lock into that position to be comfortable. That is actually a pretty impressive hinge and a pretty impressive feature, and works great if you're interested in doing, let's say, video calls or vlogging. You can just put your phone down on a table and record. Very neat, very cool. It will support 15 watt fast charging. It will have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, which is nice. That is to be expected, to be honest. And there are a couple other things about that phone. It won't have the Galaxy Fold Concierge like the Galaxy Fold has, and it will not have Galaxy Buds in the box, which is a shame, but it's going to be much cheaper. This phone, there have been a couple different reports. Some reports and my sources have told me it'll be about $1,400, which is undercutting the Moto Razr by about $100 for a much better device in my opinion. But other reports from out of Korea say the phone should be close to $1,000, maybe under that $1,000 mark, which honestly I'm kind of hoping for that, because this year is going to be expensive with all the technology, and Samsung could definitely sell a lot more devices if they try to go for the $1,000 and under mark. And you might be thinking, that's it? That's the successor to the Fold? It isn't. There is another rumored Galaxy Fold coming out in Q2 of this year, so it'll be between May and June, likely. And this one is supposed to, or April and June, sorry. This one is supposed to actually have a 108 megapixel camera, 8-inch display with glass, and that foldable ultra-thin glass, and an S Pen, Snapdragon 865, and 5G, and then probably a huge battery at that point, and definitely a little bit thinner. That one I'm going to hope it is announced at Unpacked with a future launch date, but we don't know. I do know it is coming. There have been some reports out of Korea and from Bloomberg about that one, but we don't know much besides that it's in the works and will likely be coming out in Q2 of this year. So yeah, that's basically everything I know about this Galaxy S20 and Galaxy Z Flip and Galaxy Fold 2 devices. I know this was a long video going over everything, but there's honestly no way to cut this shorter and still keep everything we know about this phone. I will be doing an article over on the XDA portal with basically summarizing this with everything we know. So I might have missed something in this video. I usually do them unscripted, especially with all this. There's so much, and there's so much more coming that even between now and when the video goes live, there might be 3 or 4 more leaks, which is just insane to think about. But I'll link that article down in the description, and this video and that article will likely go live at the same time. If not, just be on the lookout across all of our social channels, and we will mention the article somewhere so you guys can go check it out. So again, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments what you think about the upcoming Samsung Unpacked and all of these devices that are coming out. I will be at Unpacked doing hands-on and some videos and articles on the portal as soon as the devices are announced, so be sure to keep an eye out for that because we'll have a lot of content coming. So again, thank you guys for watching.